Okay, all right, so I think John, you're on board. I don't know if Steve is going to join us or not, but we have four of us from being up here this morning. Brian cannot make it, and I don't see Don on there. Don, are you online, Don?
No.
Is that a no?
Unless, yeah, no, that's me. I see a max revenue. I don't know who that is. I don't know if that's Don. Oh, there's Don Bonifard.
Okay, thanks. All right, so there's five of us here, so we have a quorum. So with that said, it's now 9:07, so let's call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Don, can you do a few minutes today?
Sure.
Thank you. All right, any public comments? Okay. Not hearing any public comments, so we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is approval of the 2/27/22 minutes. The minutes have been previously distributed to the entire team. We reviewed them. Are there any additional changes or edits to the minutes as previously distributed?
None from me.
Okay, not hearing any changes, we'll accept the minutes as previously distributed for the 2/27/22 meeting. Okay, next item on the agenda is an update on the Ocean Pines Volunteer Fire Department Work Group. John, we appreciate you giving us this update here today, and we're looking forward to hearing, where things are at there.
Sure. Thank you, Dick. So a couple of things. The team, and you're probably going to be hearing more going forward. But just currently, we are meeting with one of the contractors today to get an update and just ballpark on timing, looking at the sketches that Frank Brown did, trying to get some high-level estimates. So there is a meeting today with that team on that. We are looking out to another contractor also and scheduling for that over the next week or two. It's something that Eddie and I did in the very beginning, and it's just good time now to try to get an idea with the changing environment in construction and logistics and all that stuff. As far as the work group, the fundraising, and I believe I updated you all on this before, the person that we had hired had to back down on it for the reasons that she gave, which is fine. So that fundraising, that approach right now is not happening. We have offered to the fire department the resources here, like I have always, on what they want to do next. The only thing I've heard, and of course you would have to ask them, is that they are doing the Explorer that's out there. They updated us that they're going to do that just like they did the trucks in the last several years. That's all I have on that right now. We would have to ask them. As far as the rest on that team or anything else, that's pretty much it. I believe that group is going to go to the board with an update either in April or May. That's all I have. No change in how much money they have put aside. Although we have a grant writer, we continue to look at grants or whatever to try to see what we can get. So I think.
So John, is the contractors that's looking at, to give you an estimate, and you're looking at the second one here, is that an estimate to refurbish what's there or an estimate to put something?
No. Yeah, that's an excellent question. That's one of the things we're going to talk about, but the last time we talked about a building, the same game plan, and we're talking about on the same site. We're not talking about another site at this time or anymore. We're talking about the site there. Everybody on the team, whether from the fire department or us or whatever. So we're looking at that site, that building. It did come up last time about refurbishing again, but that's the kind of discussion we would have with the contractors, thoughts on that or whatever. Right now, in my mind, it could be either one, but right now the plan is to like what we did with the clubhouse. But that's why we're having this meeting today. Yeah.
Okay.
Good question.
So what I hear you saying is that April or May there'll be a board presentation open to the public.
There'll be some type of update from that work group. You know, I know Ted was, so I guess I'll know more after the next meeting, but I forget now if we said specifically May. It won't be later than May. Yep.
George?
The fundraising, John, so what you're saying, I just make sure I'm clear, is that at this point, that fundraising is not gonna happen? And,
So what I said, and I'm glad you're asking me, is that I have offered the resources of Ocean Pines, as I've had from the beginning,
Mhm.
on anything or anything way we can help the fire department fundraise.
okay,
The lady who we had hired, that the whole team had hired, she stepped down. And I believe I reported that to everybody. The only thing I'm hearing from the fire department, and again, you would have to ask them, is they continued, they have the truck out there. It's a beautiful truck and buy your chances for it. But that's what they're doing. But I have offered the resources that I can from here to them.
the memorandum of understanding, if I recollect it right, said that the board will work with the fire company on fundraising. Who's on the board is working with them? Who's doing that work? The MOU, correct me if I'm wrong, it said the board and the fire company will work together on the fundraising. Who on the board is the
I didn't
lead?
know that, right? So I know there's stuff in there. It's been a while, and I'll go back and look at it, the MOU first of all. But George, you might be right. Quite honestly, you have to ask the board. I don't. Everybody in here is just looking at me. We
Okay,
don't
I'm
know.
sorry. Yeah,
Yeah, we don't know, nor do I know. I think what it says, and I don't, you know, I knew what it said, but I'm just trying to think now. I mean, obviously we have to, I don't know if it specifically says that. I'll check it. But again, I am offering whatever we can, whether it's communicate anything that I can physically do here with our team. So maybe that works. If the board specifically, I'll ask the board, but I have no knowledge of a specific board member working with them, but you have to ask them.
okay, Monica, maybe do you know?
Yeah, there's no one specifically assigned to that at this point. In general, it's on all of the board members.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, B&F at one point in time submitted our recommendations to the board. And in those recommendations, we strongly encouraged a capital campaign program be established and going forward. And I think we still feel that's
Yeah.
the way to go. And I hope that's the direction we end up continuing to move in.
Okay, so that, you know, Dick, so that's a little different than an MOU or whatever, and I do remember that. And I believe that's what we were doing here. And we, you know, hired that fundraising person, and we were well on our way with that. Now the person stepped down. Obviously now it's recalibrate or whatever. But I believe Ocean Pines and my team here, we're trying to work with that. But you're right.
Okay.
I'm sure that'll come up over the next 2 board meetings.
I'm just gonna reiterate, take a look at that MOU. I forgot, I didn't bring it with me. I forgot the date of it, but I think it does reference the board and the fire company to work together on it.
Oh, yeah.
That was in there,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I thought, that's what I believe we were doing in that whole plan that we've been talking about the last several months. But again, the person stepped down, so we were doing that.
I understand.
Yep, okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, next item on the agenda is the review of the financials and the Mad reports. So we should go through those right now. I have them in front of me. And I'll just lead us through here as we go through these. I'm at the first page. I'm going to flip through these. Not that we're going to spend time on every page, but if someone has a question, we'll address that, or we'll quickly move on to the next page. Just starting with the cover sheet, we did again have a positive variance of 34 grand again for the month, which is good. Revenues flat, and total expenses under budget by $35,000. Year-to-date total positive fund variance is $1.1 million. and that's mostly made up of revenues, $945,000, and expenses of under $157,000. Next page is looking at the year-to-date operating account summary. Shows the bottom, the net positive variance of $2,672,000. On this recap page, does anybody have any questions on this recap page? Okay,
I have a question.
Sure.
On the recap page,
absolutely.
as it relates to total equity. If you take the equity from the internal financial statements of 422 and you add to it that $2,672,000, you get $36,253,000. But the total equity on the balance sheet is $36,469,000. That's a $216,000 variance that I don't understand.
All right. Steve, do you want that repeated?
So I'm the GM, Dick, and please work through me. I'm going through this with all the committees, and I've been through this a lot here. Steve is here. What I'm going to ask you to do, we're going to ask is, that's a good question. If you could just put that in your letter to the chair, and we'll come back with an analysis, and I think it'll be best for everybody. All righty.
So the
We'll put that in the minutes, separate.
well, we'll put in both. We'll kind of highlight it in the beginning. So the 2672 on the balance sheet, I'm just going to touch on it here a little bit here. On the balance sheet, ties to the unappropriated equity less the prior year unappropriated equity. So that you get the two together, that ties together. Are you saying that doesn't equal? I don't have a calculator in front of me.
I'm saying if you take the 2672 and add it to the equity for the internal financial statements of 422, you get a total of $36,253,000. But the balance sheet reads $36,469,000. Now, that could be the auditor's adjustments, but I have a question in that regard as well. Because if you take the total equity from the audited financial statements of 422, that's $27,130,000. But the internal, again, is $33,580,000 for a variance of $6,450,000. I don't understand that.
All right. All right, let's, John, could you maybe just write up a paragraph on that?
So Dick, so wait, hold on. So first of all, we're on operating. First of all, this is a good question, and I want to answer it. The way to do something like this so that we're all not sitting here for an hour is for you and your team to give me this question with the numbers the gentleman has, which I think is fine, and we will respond with an analysis on it. We will go back and get last year's statements and everything, and we'll do that. So I'm asking you to put it into your letter with his numbers and everything, and we'll do that. All right. Otherwise, we're all going to be sitting here for half an hour because we don't have this stuff. But it is a very good question. I will answer it. But let's do it the way I'm saying to save everybody time.
Yeah, no,
And we will get you the answer to that, sir.
that's
right.
fine. That's
All right,
fine.
good. Thanks, Dick.
So just if you can put that together, a couple paragraphs or so, we'll
I'll type it up.
understand that and then we'll circulate it. Okay, any other questions on year-to-date operating account summary? The next page is the net operating by department. On this page, I prefer to, once you get down to recreation and parks, past that, we have tennis and so forth. We have detailed pages. Any questions, we'll refer to the detailed pages. But looking down from the general admin down through recreation and parks, I'll float that right now. Does anybody have any questions on the current month or year-to-date changes that they're seeing right there?
John, outside contractors that you hire, does that go into public works or does that go somewhere else?
So the outside, depending on what we hire them for, it would go against that P&L. The majority and the bulk of the outside contractors is Public Works, and it goes against Public Works. So for instance, the drainage, it's Public Works. If I'm hiring outside contractors, pretty much for everything else, it winds up going against capital, depending on what it is. But I'm bringing in now a contractor, an outside contractor to do the tennis courts, look at the cracks again in the pickleball courts. That would go against racket sports. The tennis, that number's around 19,000. It'll go against tennis. So it depends, but the bulk in them usually is the Public Works.
All right, thanks, John.
So if you look at Public Works for the month, there is a large positive variance of $36,000. And actually, it's well explained on the recap sheet, which is the next page, which shows that there's a favorable wages and benefits for $23,000. Some drainage issues, which could be timing of $9,000, and refuge removal item of $3,700. Short reduction in county roads timing revenue. So that explains the 36 large deviation from budget there, as far as I'm concerned. General maintenance looks like it's $9,000 over, but yet we're still under for year to date. So it looks like we're catching up on general maintenance. And I guess that's going to continue on for the next 2 months, right, John?
Yes, I do want to say something, Dick, if it's okay, going back to the wages, and, we've talked about this all year. So we do have some positions open, and we're getting a lot more applications now across the board for everything, and I'm pretty excited about that, and I think that reflects the entire economy. But, a lot of times, like you said, if we don't have the manpower, I go out and we get outside contractors, or we have people working overtime or whatever. But the favorability that's being seen in there is a lot of it, and Steve will tell you, is the payroll cost specifically for the medical benefits. So it's like the actual payroll, we are utilizing it in other ways, but then just, because payroll medical cost is so high, we actually start seeing some favorability there. So that's a big part of that. I just wanted to point that out. The part to your question about going the next couple of months, if you could just repeat that, I'll answer that.
Yeah, so it looks like we're moving, we have a favorable year-to-date variance, and we ate into that 9K in the current month. And I guess my comment was that for the next 2 months, if there is planned maintenance, that positive variance will come down as we move towards year end.
That's correct. And we're doing maintenance, a lot of maintenance out there. And if you're driving around, you see a lot, we're trying to focus on the flower beds and all that stuff. But yes, assuming that the weather holds up for us and everything. Right now, I have a lot of manpower down at the marina, along with the outside contractor, trying to get that done before May 1st. So, we've shifted a lot there. We're still checking on some of the bills. I'm looking at Steve, if we got all the bills in for this renovation, which, by the way, everybody did a great job. It was a combination of Public Works and outside contractors. But yeah, we still have some coming. So that would answer your question too, that it'll probably be offset.
All right, and police current month is explained on the variance page.
So the police, if I may, so on the police, we've implemented a new procedure, something we didn't have here for as long as I know, and something the county does and others. Before you send somebody to the academy, they have a testing and I guess a few other items, which we did on Saturday. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we have 3 spots for the academy this July. And we have at least 4 people that we believe, based upon this testing and everything we did on Saturday, well qualified for it. So this is the most applicants we've had since I've been here. And like I said, we have 3 or 4, if not 5, very good candidates. The ones that may not make the first 3, we're looking at bringing them in as dispatchers, getting them training, experience here, and then in 6 months after the July, hopefully we have candidates for the next academy. So I'm excited about that. As you know, at that level, the entry level, we probably have 5 open positions. So this is the best that I've heard since I've been here. So excited about that. Yeah, we have favorability in the police. We have a lot of overtime coming in, as well as I do probably have to pay something to the county that's been out there. So Steve and I, we didn't accrue it this past month, but we're going to accrue something. So that'll offset some of that favorability there.
John, is it, how often do we get an experienced police officer that wants to come in and join our department versus sending people to the academy? Is that a very rare?
So, yeah, no, I like that question. So, you know, I've spoken about our business model in the past, and I'm not going to go back from scratch on what I've said. But I do believe, and I'll get to you eventually, I do believe that our business model and our whole Ocean Pines works for somebody that would come here, you know, that had a career ready or whatever. So I think we set up very well for that. We don't, any of the people we're talking about here are the applicants, none of them fit into that category right now. But I think we should be attractive to that type of applicant going forward, especially with the board now approving, as you all know, something that we talked about, Dick, and your BNF approved for me to go forward and everything, that we now have I believe, a very competitive and very good pension equivalent. Steve is nodding his head yes.
Question.
Well, just on that pension, John, that you talked about the board meeting, we've approved 175,000. That's, maybe this isn't the right place to talk about that, but I'll ask it anyway. That we had at the last meeting, 693,000 retained earnings that we're holding over. So the 175 for that program is going to come out at 693, correct?
Correct. Those numbers, my numbers in my head are close to those numbers, but correct. I did ask the board for money transferred from that, and there may be another transfer, but correct. Yes, because that money's been realized, signed off by the auditors. Correct.
Now
And go ahead.
Is that's going to be an ongoing yearly figure, or will that number fluctuate?
So, you know, you have different tiers, obviously, with the favorability this year, and it's well spoken about. And I'm anticipating favorability for this year to be realized. So then it would be broken out. We would, you know, it all goes into one account, one pool, but, you know, we would have the different layers, and I would still have that balance. When Steve does the analysis for us, I have him break all that out. So hopefully that answered your question or no?
Oh, well, maybe I'm not clear. In the budget, when you budget for that, we'll have to budget for that each year from now on, wouldn't we?
Oh, I got your question. I got it. Yeah. I'm glad you're asking this.
So we
let's
would
talk about this. Go ahead.
Yeah, so next year in the budget, I guess what I'm asking, when we do the budget next year, I guess that would be under benefits, if I'm thinking right. That number 175,000, is that going to be a constant, or will that fluctuate depending on the people in the program?
Yeah, so
And maybe I'm jumping ahead to the budget.
No. I'm fine with now. I say so. I got to answer it in 2 parts, George, and I'm not circumventing. It's going to be it would be each year, but obviously that number in the budget's probably going to fluctuate a little bit depending on the mix of our team there.
Right.
So it'll fluctuate. You know, they won't be major fluctuations, but it will be something in there along those lines of somewhere around 175,000, you know, based upon, you know, increases and maybe the mix of what we have in there. But
okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I just wanted.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yes.
Yeah, going forward. You know,
Yes,
not next year. I understand this year. Then going
Yeah, so I
forward,
have to cover that.
the next
Yeah.
budget. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Good.
Okay. Okay. Move on. Well, the next page is the variance analysis. I think we just addressed that. Items we talked about, and then we have golf and yacht club, which we can hit when we look at the detailed pages. Next page is the operating summary page. Ties up the early first page with a positive year to date operating variance of 2672. Any questions on that? Okay. So now we move to the different amenities. Tennis is first. Again, our amenities, for the most part, are, other than golf here, seem to be where they would be in this time of year. I did notice on the tennis that I actually noticed on tennis and on platform and maybe pickleball, let me just see, that we seem to be doing a fair amount of maintenance, and service and supplies seem to be larger than they have been in the past. As an example, in tennis, the maintenance and service supplies is 50% of the budget year to date. So I guess, John, are we using this time to, get the racket center in shape for the upcoming season? Is that what's going on?
Yes, we continue to focus on racket sports with maintenance, something that was started when I first came in here. I didn't see much happen there the 7 years before. We continue to do that. But let me be careful how I craft my next statement as I get everybody's attention. The list is never ending that I receive from them. And we will continue to maintain that and get that to where we want it to be, like we did for golf. But if you go down there every day, I got public works people down there, as well as the individual that we put 2 years ago down there, basically full time, probably 90% of his time there working on maintenance. I have ATC coming back in to do the maintenance on tennis. They're also going to look at the cracks and anything else on the pickleball courts, as well as the paddleball courts, and give us a recommendation based upon the schedules and the different percentages they have with all their charts. And we will address that. I believe he's coming in over the next couple of weeks. We also, if you have been down there, you noticed there was wind damage on one of the fences for the paddleball courts. I believe the company that came in 3-4 years ago, the update I got this morning is he's probably going to be here this week. So I will have more costs there in maintenance, as well as Steve and I haven't decided yet on whether it's all maintenance or it's maintenance of capital, but that could be a big maintenance number. But we think it's also going to be capital. If you've seen what happened to, and help me out with the court number, that's court number 6. I don't like paying for anything twice in that situation. Based upon demands, I'm paying for something twice.
John, were those cracks in the newly repaired pickleball courts, or the new courts, or the newly repaired courts?
So and I'm glad you're breaking it out for me. So, right. So the renovated courts, which were the existing courts, which had many cracks, many cracks. I was down there, I think it was last week. I walked it. People have come to me. People have told me, yes, there are cracks. There are some cracks. And we will address them. The gentleman's coming in from ATC. I forget his name right now. If somebody can help me out here.
Dave?
No, Dave's the paddleball fences. They'll be down. Odds are we're going to fix those. I'm being told, and I didn't even see him when I walked it, but somebody sent me a picture. Apparently, there's some very, very small cracks around the poles. Let me change that. There's something around the poles or whatever. We're going to have the gentleman look at that also on the new courts. But as of now, it's the renovated courts. Those courts, and it was all discussed, and I've talked about this in the past, those courts, the type of cracks and everything we have there, the work we did last year, if that would normally last 5 to 8 years based upon the charts in that industry, based upon the condition of those courts, those existing courts, I don't think we're going to get that with the renovation, but we will do them each year. The paddle, I know that was up last time. He told me it wasn't needed. He being the contractor. I'm going to have him look at that again on the paddle courts, these very fine cracks around the poles. He's got charts. He'll show us the charts, and then we'll determine on whether or not to do them. But there is a scientific in the industry formula for this stuff. But let me just say again, so everybody hears it, the courts, the existing courts that were there before we built the new ones, they're not exactly the type of court, the situation with that, which we think has to do with the base. We're going to be doing a lot of maintenance on them each year. So the reason why you see the cost. And there's a lot of demands down there, which is fine, but it's good. There's a cost.
All right, well, more to come on that. Have we hired somebody to manage the facility yet, or is that still work in progress?
Oh, so, yeah, no, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, and I'm waiting till the individual starts, which I believe is in middle April. So, we actually did make an offer that was accepted. The starting date is the mid-April. I was just waiting, till that started, and then we were going to make an announcement. But we did make an offer that I was told was accepted. I know that the racket sports director is very excited about it. HR is very excited about it. Fine gentlemen. So hopefully, yeah, in April, we'll be making an announcement there.
Very good, thank you.
Good.
Strong background, strong resume. I know for some reason there was a very big demand down there to have somebody with a college degree. I'm not totally sure why, but that's fine. He has a college degree plus, so a lot of boxes checked there. Very nice young man, gentleman. Yeah, I'm excited too.
Okay. Any other questions on the racket sports, that being tennis, platform, or pickle?
You covered the ones I had.
Okay. Okay, aquatics. Low playing revenue, but nothing major. Looks like service and supplies, are double the budget almost for the month. Is there a
Year to date, we're okay.
yeah, year to date we are okay, so let's just leave it at that. Okay, I'm fine with that. Okay. Aquatics questions?
So Dick, if I may, and you haven't asked, so, because I always, when I see this kind of variances or whatever in a month, that we look at it in live, could be it's timing. We just put a note, or Steve's putting a note. I asked him to put a note for next year. So maybe we just have to shift the budget a little bit, but it's like anything else sometimes, when you order. But all indications and every update we've gotten and everything, we're pretty much in line for the year and stuff like that. And she's proven that over the years that she's running that in us.
Right, yeah, okay. All right, combined golf ops. Next page. Strong month compared to budget, revenue wise. And a very positive month on the bottom line. People continue to play, I guess that's, weather is helping out some here. Yeah, the year-to-date driving range, double the budget. I know we budgeted close to the 50-something thousand for next year, but that's really good compared to budget this year. And we budgeted properly next year at that level, it looks like. Looks like merchandise sales were 83% cost of goods sold. Looks like we're cleaning out some of our inventory, which was the intent, I guess, from our last discussion last month. The service and supplies are still up some on the current month and up year to date. I think we've discussed that in the past, John. Maybe you can refresh what's happening year to date, service and supplies. Under expenses for golf. $41,000 over budget. That's
So-
some of them. Go ahead, John.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dick. We were just, so, I heard you about the merchandise. Look, anytime you bring in a new person or whatever, you're going to evaluate stuff and everything like that. And you're right, there was a lot that the new management structure down there in our accounting department and myself and everything that we addressed, and that we addressed the structure there. So of course, there's going to be some charges coming through, but I am confident that going forward, that we're set up for success.
And I know we've talked this in the past, I just can't seem to put my finger on it, but services and supplies, it's catch-up work or work that we, George, you recall? All right, John,
Recall, I'm sorry.
$41,000 over budget on expense line for service and supplies under golf. Could you help us there understand what's happening?
Yeah, hold on.
This year.
It's- But did we start the design of the irrigation system under that?
So, you know, let's
Budget?
do a little research on that, Dick. And we'll get back to you on it. Steve's actually looking now. They thought it was chemicals, you know, it could also be timing or whatever, but I only got 1 month left. But we'll get an answer on that.
John, that he didn't start, I know what Justin was gonna start working on the design for a new irrigation system for the following year. Are some charges in there already for that? I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yeah, so let me trying to
I'll
think.
take a look at it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying we don't have the answer. I'm just drawing a blank and Steve's looking it up now. But we'll definitely get it for you.
Okay, any other combined golf ops questions? All right, Clubhouse Grill, looks like we opened back up sometime in February. We have some Super Bowl, that's at the Super Bowl party. Is that what we're looking at here? Super Bowl event? Is that what this is? Okay. Yeah, I looked at this and I looked at the add-on reports. I have no other questions on this.
No, I don't have it.
Okay.
I have a question on the cost of sales for the Clubhouse Grill and the Beach Club and the Yacht Club. Why is there such a variance in the percentage of cost of sales between the three places? That being that the Clubhouse Grill's cost of sales are 45% of sales, whereas the Beach Club, the cost of sales is 32% of sales. Can you tell me what creates that spread? Is it a matter of mix of food or whatever?
Yeah, let me jump in, and I apologize. I was just getting a call from somebody on the staff, but you said that the gross margins for the grill were lower, or the cost of goods sold were higher than at the other places. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes.
Yeah, so in the grill, the prices are not on a lot of items, not the normal prices. We take it down a little bit for the members and stuff. That decision was made from the very beginning. So we don't get the margins in the grill that we get at the other places, because we do, as part of the memberships or whatever, they get, you know, a lower price on certain items.
Okay, thank you.
And I think to add to that, Matt Art at the budget time basically said there's a more of a transient population at the Beach Club that are willing to pay Ocean City kind of prices for
Right.
Ghost.
Right. And then at the Yacht Club, you have some items that the margins just in general on certain type of entrees and stuff are a little higher.
Okay, thank you.
And for the best prices on a Miller Lite or anything in Ocean Pines or anywhere else, you're gonna get them out at the grill. So if anybody's out there and they want to have a Miller Lite, go to the grill. Great prices, especially if you're a member. Threw that in, Dick. All right, I gotta
Okay.
watch, gentlemen. And ladies, Steve and I have another meeting, but we're here for you.
Looking at the Beach Club here, which is
Yeah.
not much there.
It's closed.
Closed. Beach parking, which, the revenue there is, secrets revenue as budgeted. John Secrets pays for the, use a lot there.
Right, so secrets, right, we have as it continues, Secrets pays for, and I'll ask Steve what months or whatever, but they pay for the parking lot on the ocean side. We have a lease with them for that, and they also pay for a lease and for parking on the bay side. So there are two leases. We probably between the two on average is about 150,000 a year, Steve.
A little less, but yeah.
It's in the ballpark, 140, 150. So yes, and then the rest is obviously the beach parking. Maybe some other small item that's de minimis.
Okay, I'm on the yacht club now. Revenue's down a little bit. I've got no questions on the yacht club. Anybody else?
No.
Next page. Oh, Steve, I did see additional report that was offered up. I guess this came from Matt Orr. John, I'll address it to you, John. You can address Steve.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what report?
There's a yacht club banquet income statement report that was issued this month, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, I can be honest with you, Dick, we've always had it, but yes.
All right, holding out on us, huh?
I mean, if you want it,
No,
Steve
actually,
will send it to you.
it is kind of neat because it does basically tell you a little bit what's happening with the banquet income statements, with banquet activity compared to all other.
You have it, you can send it to him.
And it's kind of nice. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Steve will, look, nothing on our end, they weren't, he was just trying to give you the stuff, but Steve will send it to you in a second if you want it.
Yeah, we got, I'm just busting your chops. So we got, Steve, is there any way to apply labor to that? Or is that all buried in?
So I'll answer that as Steve smiles. This has come up numerous times. We've asked also the Maddox company management, and although that management has kind of changed, they said that they couldn't do that. We've been going through this for 3 years. I get it. I understand why you're asking. I certainly would ask for it myself, but based upon the whole scenario and when I look at the whole picture, whatever, I'm okay with it. But if BNF wants that, please send it to your chair, charging document to me, and I will certainly sit down with Matt if it is possible to do. But they have told us on their end that over the years, and have told this committee that they can't do it. In my day,
Which is a long time ago, right?
which is many. So anyway, look, I understand your question. The best way for me to answer it is do it as a charging document, and I will sit down with, if the board comes forward to me, I'll sit down with Matt. The margin should be, I got to tell you this, and this is me, and I do have history in catering. I come from a catering background, and I have a lot of experience in it. The margins are more favorable, and it should be more favorable in catering as opposed to a la carte.
Well, you would think so, because you have an event, you have a wedding event, which is what, 4 to 6 hours or whatever it is. You're pulling from a population of a pool of waiters and cooks and things that you already have on staff. And so when you just marginalize or allocate their time out to a certain event, it's a small cost. And it looks, I mean, it would be a very, very profitable event if that's all you did. But you're fortunate that you have those people already there that you can pull for a banquet.
Right,
So
right.
it would be a remarkably profitable view if you had labor on there associated with the 4 or 6 hour event.
Right. But I'm talking even in general, if you're just in the catering business, your margin is going to be better than a la carte. Now, I will say this, and going back, whatever year we did that yacht club or whatever, part of the business plan was the catering. I thought that was really good because, again, knowing margins and everything, and I was on that committee or whatever, your committee, and I thought that was a really good way of bringing in money and you know, having part of the business plan being catering, assuming you do it right, that would help bring down the cost for everything else. And I believe they've been moving in that direction. But you're right. And you know, again, I will talk to Matt, but if it's a charging document, I certainly will, whatever. Steve and I right now, you know, with everything else, I mean, we've been happy with the numbers. They are decreasing some, but sure, if that's what you want, we'll strive for it.
John, I see Matt has brought in some entertainment on Friday nights, a soloist or a duet and that. It seems to be bringing in a crowd on Friday nights now more than in the past in these months.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you've heard me if you listen to board meetings and everything, and again, it's not just the yacht club or anywhere else, but you know, and it has been on golf over the, you know, months ago or whatever. It's a can-do attitude. We have a team. We focus on that, all of us, whether it's accounting or whatever. But yeah, they've had success with the music, and I believe they've been bringing in different types of bands and solos. Yep. And he's spoken to me about bringing in others. Sure. All good.
All right, so now move to the revenue summary page. I guess the rest of the report here, which is revenue summary, capital summary, balance sheet. Just those 3 pages, I'll throw those out if anybody has any questions on any of those 3 pages.
Did you say balance sheet?
I'm on about either one of them, yeah. Either one of the
Yeah,
3.
John, could you explain the need for an allowance for doubtful accounts of $861,000?
Yes, so it's a good question. It's actually something I usually address in April. So during COVID, during the economy of the last 2 or 3 years, we wanted to ensure, and if you were following it, even the board and everybody with the assessments, and I forget if it was 2 years ago or whatever, were concerned about how the economy and everything and how it would affect us. We obviously, with the accountants, the outside accountants, work with them and feedback from them on what the allowance should be. With that said, and with now the experience of the last year or two, Steve and I are looking at that. What I normally do and what I've said, and it's a very good question. And the way I've been approaching it is, Steve and I have made some small adjustments during the months, but I like to get the report during the audit and then make that adjustment. So I'm not up, down, left, right. So that's a number I usually adjust one way or the other come April. If you're asking me now to forecast which way or which direction I'm going or we're going to go with, or I'll be coming to this board next month or the month after as we close the year out, would probably be some release as opposed to increase. Steve's shaking his head. So, you know, if there is going to be something, it's certainly, I don't believe it's going to go higher unless we come across something that Steve and I don't know about right now. But we will address that in April.
Okay, because I took a look at the audited financial statements from last year.
Right.
And if you take the net write-offs against
Right.
receivables, it comes out to $52,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have an $861,000 reserve, that's 17 years.
So I totally respect that question, and that's an excellent point. We will address that. We do. You know, that's assuming everything is static. Our receivables, some of them, you know, the aging part of it. Yeah, the aging part of it. But maybe it's time to completely write them off. We do everything possible to try to collect. It pains me when I do finally write off. But we are looking at that. And like I said, now, you know, next month. But you know, odds are it'll probably be a write-off. And then, so what'll happen is the receivable obviously will go down and the allowance will go down, net zero. If there is something that we can release in there, sir, we definitely will. But that's what we're looking at. We've been looking at that the last couple of months. Hopefully I answered your question.
What it really comes down to, and these are assessment receivables, what it really, for the most part, what it really comes down to is when you can enforce or collect on a lien that's on a property. So some of these are pretty old because
Correct.
people don't pay, they sit out there, but eventually there's a reckoning day. Usually you would think, unless somebody forecloses on a house and the bank loses money with it. But you would think there's a reckoning, some point in time, there's a turnover in a house and that money's coming back. And when that money comes back, it's coming back with interest and penalties, plus the original assessment. So is it safe to say that the likelihood of collecting that money is there, but it's long-term?
So that's the correct statement. They're aged, they're older, correct.
So a house turns over and the lien is there. Is it a pretty certain event that the money's going to come back to Ocean Pines?
Dick, I'm sorry. I was just looking, I was trying to get the numbers because we have tapered back the amount that we charge to allowance with that. So, hopefully the ship is turning the other way. And I'm not going to go right in there and, you're going to see this big number one way or the other. So I think I've answered that. Dick, I'm sorry, the piece you just asked, if it was to me.
So I guess I'm trying to understand the certainty of potentially collecting these older receivables. So a house turns over and there's a lien and there's Ocean Pines is owed $30,000 as an example. Is that a pretty certain event that Ocean Pines will collect that money?
You want to get what's in?
House is sold?
Yeah, so what Steve's saying is, Dick, and I'll answer these questions, but so let's say that number that you put, and you're doing an excellent job explaining the example. There's different components to that example, right? Whether it's interest, penalties, the dollar amount. Even if we do collect, it's not guaranteed we're going to collect 100% of those numbers in your example.
I got it. So the judge
Yeah.
may say the interest is too high, therefore cut back on that, or
Part of the agreement too, I really don't, part of the, part of the agreement. You follow what I'm saying?
yeah.
What I'd just prefer to say to the committee, but I'll answer every detail you want, but what we really should come away with is that it's not guaranteed, even when we settle, that we're going to settle is the word, that we're going to get 100%. Get something.
Right. And the basis for the position right now for uncollectibles is basically a formula based on age. Is that what you're doing, John?
So, and it's not just I'm doing it. That's for everybody. That's industry wide. What I'm saying to you, and I'm looking over to Steve to ensure that he agrees with me right now, is that we have been conservative. That we are. Yeah, he's doing the bobblehead, and that we are reserved for a receivable balance that's more towards the aged as opposed to current. We are reevaluating. It's one of the first things that I talked to with Steve, with the auditor when it comes in. The last several years, not sure about last year, but since I've been in here, and definitely when I was on that committee deck, the auditors always came in and they felt we needed to increase our allowance account. We've done that, and especially what went on with the COVID and the economy. Now it's hopefully shifting the other way, and you'll see that. And like I said, we haven't expensed like we did the prior years this year. It's come down. We did expense some, and I'm hoping after the evaluation with this and everything that we continue to go that way.
Okay.
And, odds are maybe it's time to write off some of this stuff as opposed to, right, you have the receivable, you have the allowance, it equals zero. If we write it off, it still comes down to zero. It's a paradigm shift. Maybe it's time for me to talk about that on this example as everybody else on other items, but I was waiting for another time. But it's a paradigm shift.
Yeah, maybe it is. And maybe we talk more about that.
We'll talk more about that. I'm saving that for a board presentation. Linda's laughing.
John, what's typical in the receivable other? What is receivable other?
How big is that number? Any receivables that we would have out there. I don't have that, and I'm trying to see. It's not a big number. It's actually come down. I mean, I can look into it for you, but you know, we have receivables here. It could be different things. The biggest
some of-
number is everything
some
is
of the
obviously the
golf-
assessments.
So,
You know, I don't have the
Some of the
detail in
stuff
front of me.
package,
I look at that, you know, it's coming down. I want to get that down, you know, as well as other things.
Okay, that's fine.
John, those are good questions.
Yeah, no, very good questions. Yeah.
Any other balance sheet questions?
Balance sheet's healthy. Steve, is the balance sheet healthy? It's healthy. The cash position, we always look at that. Steve, is cash up? Cash is up. You know, I thought you all would want to talk about that. I know we had that special meeting. The cash is up, the reserves, balances are up. But what I want to say, and I don't want to use the word caution because it's not caution, but you know, I was just down and spent an hour down at the marina docks, the gas and all that stuff. The price tag for that, because we had a situation, the price tag for that and the cash outflow for that is over $500,000. So that's not something we would have planned, but we had to based upon what happened last year. So, you know, when something does happen, it costs a lot of money and a lot of cash. So we being everybody, the board, BNF, every other committee and everybody else and the people of Ocean Pines, we have built up our reserves. And I know, Dick, your committee wanted us to do that. We've done that. We've done that for the roads. But, you know, it just takes, you know, we are looking at cash and I am looking at cash a lot. We're putting in some new procedures here so that I can ensure that we have the cash for cash outflows, you know, especially when we have some big ticket items on the capital side coming forward. I believe we're okay. Steve's saying yes. Hopefully the BNF is saying yes, Dick. You really should be saying something.
No, we're not registered concerned about the cash position right now.
Okay, what else you need from me on the balance sheet? Okay,
Hey, cash and investments is the next page. That shows the breakdown. At some point in time here, I think we're gonna find a time where Don is in town, and Don and I are gonna hook up with you, John, and or your designees to just take a look at the breakdown of the kind of investments we have and a little bit closer look at the detail of the various options there.
thank you, and I encourage that. We are looking in, and I actually sent an email, Mark's not in today. We are looking into, we're going to do the T-bills, investments and T-notes, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna use Taylor. Yeah, set up
Okay.
Taylor this week.
So we are going to be doing that. I do want to shift from CDs to treasury notes and T-bills. We're setting up the procedure in the bank for that. Mark's working on that for Steve. And we'll set up the controls for that, and we'll be glad to show you all that once we get it in place. The CDs, and we talked about this in the prior, I met with Reed. Reed was in immediately. Everything is insured. And they certainly have a report that shows that when you come in. Steve wanted me to say that we are in the process, as I mentioned, transferring X amount of money to Taylor Bank because I want two banks. And I believe your committee has said that in the past too. The bank we had in the past, I guess they merged or sold out or whatever, and the bank that acquired them, quite honestly, I don't know where they are, but they are a viable bank. But Steve has transferred all the money out of that. I'm sure it's a good bank. We're not in there anymore. We'll be in Taylor's and T-bills and T-notes. Short term.
All right. Then that's probably it for the package.
Okay, because is there anything else you need from me? I think it's 10 o'clock and we have other meetings. I mean, I'll stay on this thing, but is there anything else you need from me? If so, can we just do it quick?
Guys in your team can take off, yeah.
Or we can go?
Yeah.
And we're always accessible if you want to email me or something, all right?
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Good questions, and we'll get you that
Thanks, John.
answer on that. Yep, the reconciliation of retainer, just send that to us, and Steve and Mark, they'll work that up and we'll send it.
All right.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Okay. the next item on the agenda is the finalized report of financial conditions for Bank of Ocean City per resolution FO1. I want to thank Don for his effort as far as crawling into these call reports, which I haven't seen before, and taking a look at other financial statements and such for both of the banks and coming up with some good data that helps us do our due diligence for the board to basically comment to the board or express to the board our position as far as the condition of the banks that we deal with. So I thank you for that work, Don. Appreciate that. The memo was circulated to everybody yesterday. Did everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. Any good to go or any kind of changes somebody has in mind? I didn't attend the meeting that we talked about Taylor Bank, so if there's something that else should be said there, let me know.
Don, one question I have for you on the Silicon Valley Bank, would any of that information that you showed on there would have triggered that to, I don't know, I guess if there's something there that you looked at Silicon Valley, would it have triggered that, get out of that town?
No, it's a matter, we're talking two different areas. Silicon Valley Bank dealt predominantly with the startup companies, high tech, and basically they were trying to sell off some of those assets and they couldn't. And then there was a run as they started to go downward of people going in to pull cash out of the bank, which led to their demise. Locally here in central PA, there was 3 Mile Island, and that's roughly about 40 some years ago when one of the nuclear plants went down. Basically, locally, everyone was going to the bank to pull funds out. The banks had to close their doors. So that's something odd with both Bank of Ocean City and with Taylor Bank. They're strong banks. They've been around for a long time. Bank of Ocean City, their stock is not publicly traded, so some of the information is difficult to find. Taylor Bank is publicly traded, so their financials are a little more detailed, and they just forwarded Bank of Ocean City's audit for 2022 is at their website. The numbers, a little bit of a change here or there, but overall, the cash position is what you're looking at. So, and their provisions for loan loss are minimal. The bank I was with, we on average had a provision for loan loss or loan losses on an annual basis of about $1 to $3 million per year. And both of these are very, as mentioned, minimal, $170,000.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Don.
Okay. So if there are no changes to the memo, I guess we'll go ahead and release that. Monica, are you online?
I am.
So Monica, my thought is I'll release that memo. You've seen a copy of it too. I'll release it to the board and to John Viola, and I'll let you distribute it to the board.
You betcha. No problem.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Next item on the list is review the Excel action item list. The agenda here is, first item was the OPA finance develop detailed pages. I guess the last item that we discussed in this topic was that the DNF requested recreation and parks be included in the packet. We made that request to the board, and Monica, you've had some discussions with John Viola. Is that concluded or still moving forward?
No, it should be concluded. I kind of thought he would have added it for this month's meeting, but I'll make sure he gets it for next month.
Very good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So prioritize development of policy and procedures manual. Last thing we had there was Yeah, so we discussed that, and I had a subsequent discussion with Steve. And I basically wanted to make sure Steve understood where budget and finance was coming from there. All along, budget and finance has promoted that a manual be updated. And a long time ago, it was expressed that manual should be a consolidated manual of procedures and policy. And so all along, we've been saying to update the policies and procedures manual. Doug Parks has come forward and said basically that, okay, let's move forward and at least get the policy manual, which identifies the internal controls and the important things that the high level management folks need to be looking at, i.e. the board and in particular. And so that's going forward. And when I had a conversation with Don, or with Doug rather, Doug indicated that he was going to move that forward with the board and see if we can finalize that. Don Rostic and I gave comments to that document, and that document, well, I guess, is going to move forward. The board, we're going to have a separate manual for policies. When I spoke with Steve, I said, listen, that's key for budget and finance. If you want to, instead, you should have a manual for your team to look at for procedures. And you can have a procedures manual as detailed as you want. I've written a couple of those or been involved in those in the past. Some have been really, really detailed as far as, step A, step B, step C, and some of them have been somewhat abbreviated or summarized. So it's up to you, Steve, to decide what you need for your department as a procedures manual. And budget and finance will be happy to review those once you complete them, if you'd like us to. But we look at that as being an operations department need and for you to do what you think you need to do there. So he understood our position there. I think last time was a little bit nebulous as to what we where we were at in our last meeting, but he now understands that. And so I offered up we would review it as needed. And he's going to probably continue forward with that. That being said, I think the next step for BNF is to, once the policy manual is blessed by the board, or the next draft is blessed by the board, BNF would then look at it again and basically say, okay, we like it, or we think some other changes might be needed. So Monica, we'll wait for that manual to come from the board to us, and we will happily and gladly review that when it's ready.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Next item is the fire department MOU. Well, looks like we're far away from working on a new MOU with the fire department, but at some point in time, it has to be done, and I guess will be done. I certainly hope that we as an organization, including the fire department, are serious about doing some a professional capital fundraising approach to things. It's obviously that working with the raffle is good, but it comes far short of the need that the community has. BNF felt strongly that a capital campaign is something that should be looked at, and we still feel that way. So I hope that as the work group moves forward, that continues to be a high visibility, Monica. Okay. So that's action item still on hold.
Yep.
All right. Final item on the agenda.
Other comments?
Other comments or concerns? Do we have any other comment or concerns? Okay. Hearing none, we'll bring the meeting to closure. All in agreement?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks,
Very good.
everyone.
So much.
Thanks, everybody.
See you soon. Bye-bye.